Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
It's been a tough stretch for Boeing, and this week's earnings made that clear.
The last year especially has been like something out of the book of Job from a corporate perspective. Just really felt like everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
Julie Johnsson is a senior aerospace reporter for Bloomberg.
It started with a panel blowing out of an Alaska Airlines 737 just moments after it had taken off.
Photos show a gaping hole where an emergency door could be. But
I think it really highlighted the quality breakdowns at Boeing because the plane had just come out of Boeing's factory like 2 months earlier, so it was brand new.
Federal air safety officials say bolts on a Boeing jetliner were missing before.
It sort of precipitated a series of investigations. Boeing's management had a big shakeup.
Boeing said it would reduce its workforce by 10% as it tries to recover from financial and regulatory troubles.
Boeing brought in a new CEO, Kelly Ortberg, with a mandate to turn things around. Ortberg now finds himself at the helm of a storied American manufacturer, entering 2025 with a chessboard of challenges. A new earnings report on Tuesday that paints a grim picture of its finances, an uphill battle to regain public trust, and a tightrope act in Washington that will force it to work with one of its biggest rivals, Elon Musk, and President Trump himself. I'm David Gura, and this is The Big Take from Bloomberg News. Today on the show, Boeing needs to turn things around. Can it pull it off? And how might President Trump's return make things even more complicated?
Something I think people don't appreciate about Trump is that he's a plane guy.
Bloomberg's Julie Johnsson says President Trump may like aviation, but he especially likes Boeing. He's mostly used Boeing planes in his private fleet for years. But when Trump became president in 2017, he found himself in the middle of the U.S. government's relationship with the planemaker. For Boeing, the U.S. government is not just a regulator, it's also one of the company's marquee customers. Boeing supplies its aircraft to the Postal Service, to NASA, and the military. It also manufactures the planes that presidents use to travel all over the world. Every president since FDR has flown on a Boeing plane. But the current models are a little outdated.
The Air Force One planes have been flying around, I think, since the George Bush administration, so they're due for a replacement.
During his first term, President Trump helped negotiate a contract with Boeing to upgrade the Air Force One fleet with revamped 747 jets. He's proud of the deal and even brought it up in an interview with Bloomberg's editor-in-chief John Micklethwait last October.
So I'm getting, think of this, the exact same plane for $1.7 billion less, except I have a better paint job. Okay, much better paint job.
Trump cares about these Air Force aircraft, honestly, like nobody else on the planet. He's highly invested in these planes. He kept models on his desk at Mar-a-Lago when he was out of office.
Boeing was supposed to get these upgraded Air Force One jets into the sky by 2024. But the project is years behind schedule and $2.7 billion over budget. It's a reflection of the many problems the company has faced in recent years. But Boeing's new CEO, Kelly Ortberg, knows that getting these planes in shape is a top priority because they matter to Trump.
One of the first things that Ortberg did after Trump was elected was to set up some phone conversations with the president, where they talked through a variety of things, but he sort of delivered the bad news to the president about some of the problems Boeing had. And the transition team response at the time was along the lines of, what can we do to help with these delays?
To help keep the Air Force One project under $4 billion, the Trump administration agreed to drop some special features, like the ability to refuel midair. Trump also roped in his new Department of Government Efficiency, which is tasked with reducing government spending and maximizing productivity. And the man in charge of that department is Elon Musk, whose company SpaceX is one of Boeing's main competitors when it comes to securing NASA contracts. Now, Musk's scrutiny of Boeing and its work with the U.S. government could test the company's path to recovery. One afternoon in December, Musk's own jet landed at a Boeing facility in San Antonio, Texas.
It's where Boeing is working on the new Air Force One aircraft.
According to air traffic that Julie and her team monitored, Musk's jet landed just a few hours after another plane, which was carrying Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg.
And the two aircraft were parked right next to each other. And that's how we confirmed that there had been this highly unusual meeting between, one of Boeing's main rivals and a huge critic of the company and its new leadership.
I just wonder sort of what you know of the substance of the conversation that took place that day, or I guess more broadly, sort of what Elon Musk was doing there at that airfield in Texas.
We know he was there on behalf of the president. We don't know what was discussed. The meeting, we think, took about 2 hours, again, just based on the jet traffic in and out of the airport. But interestingly, a week later, when Musk was asked on Twitter about Boeing, he spoke very highly of the new CEO, Ortberg. So it feels like he met the moment, but really, we won't know that for a while.
From there, both jets flew to Florida, specifically to Palm Beach. Ortberg has a house there, and Musk has spent a lot of time at the president's resort.
It's just fascinating to me that they both wound up in the vicinity of Mar-a-Lago and Trump. And doesn't that sort of encapsulate this moment in time? Ortberg, as the chief of the largest U.S. exporter on the global stage, with a very volatile, unpredictable president and a new set of characters around Trump.
So how is Ortberg managing that unusual position and the hurdles a Trump presidency could throw in his way? And is Boeing succeeding at pulling things together? That's coming up. President Trump's relationship with Boeing goes way back. Almost 30 years before he was negotiating deals with the airliner on behalf of the U.S. government, he was buying a fleet of Boeing jets himself.
Donald Trump bought the Eastern Shuttle for a price tag of $365 million.
You had other people wanting this very much, as we all know, and it was just really a nice victory.
Within 3 years, he'd sold the Trump shuttle airline, but he never stopped caring about planes. And his tone on Boeing has fluctuated over the years.
One of the first things he did when he was elected in 2016 was this kind of fiery tweet about Air Force One being over budget.
Boeing is building a brand new 747 Air Force One, he wrote. Costs are out of control, more than $4 billion. Cancel order.
Soon after the tweet, he told reporters he might cancel Boeing's Air Force One contract.
I think it's ridiculous. I think Boeing is doing a little bit of a number.
And Boeing used that to actually set up a series of meetings with the president and to establish, this tight relationship with him. And he became something of a cheerleader for Boeing, though he also didn't hesitate to sling a few darts at the company as well, because that's Trump being Trump. But early on, he visited Boeing's plant in South Carolina.
I want to thank the great people of South Carolina.
Boeing's aircraft were the backdrop to the speech that he gave, and he ended it.
May God bless the United States of America, and God bless Boeing.
With God bless Boeing, which again, just really unconventional and sort of a break with the usual presidential decorum. But I think it just reinforced that Trump was invested in this company. They generate a big trade surplus for the U.S. in aerospace. That's one of the industries where the U.S. definitely exports more than it imports.
For all of Trump's criticism and praise of Boeing, there's a truth that, at least for now, he can't avoid. Boeing is the biggest U.S. exporter. And in many ways, it represents the kind of American manufacturing Trump pushes in speeches and proposed policies.
We want products made by our workers in our factories, stamped with those 4 magnificent words: made in the USA.
Boeing planes are built in the U.S., though some of the engineering is done overseas, and they have a global supply chain, but it's an American-made product.
But that also makes the company vulnerable to Trump's protectionism.
Anytime you talk about roiling global trade, definitely, I think, hearts beat a little faster at Boeing.
The trade war during Trump's first term cost the company its market lead in China, which hasn't placed a large aircraft order with Boeing since 2017. And the tariffs Trump is threatening this time around could take an even bigger toll on a company whose finances are already suffering.
I think they are girding definitely for some more turbulence, and it goes beyond China. I mean, if Trump goes after other friendlier countries, one of the easy ways to retaliate is if you don't want to buy American, you just don't buy American planes.
Boeing's main competitor, Airbus, is European. And in the wake of Boeing's repeated disasters, business has been good. Just last year, Airbus delivered more than twice as many commercial jets to customers as Boeing did. Meanwhile, Boeing reported its fourth quarter earnings on Tuesday, and it had the largest annual loss since 2020, with a cash drain over $14 billion. Ortberg told shareholders he'll be overhauling the company's portfolio to get things back on track. And on CNBC yesterday, he sounded resolved about his collaboration with Musk and Doge on the Air Force One project.
The president wants the airplane sooner, and so we're working with Elon and their team to figure out what can we do to pull up the schedule of that aircraft.
Julie says the company also tried to buy itself some time last year by raising some $24 billion in capital.
So they've got a little bit of runway here, but they've also been burning through cash at just an extraordinary pace over the last year, like to the tune of around $4 billion a quarter. And that's got to stop.
Boeing is also still being monitored by the Federal Aviation Administration. Trump hasn't yet appointed a new head of that agency since its previous leader stepped down on Inauguration Day. But Trump's transportation secretary pick, Sean Duffy, has called for tough love and oversight when it comes to Boeing. In the meantime, in February, Boeing is expected to give the U.S. Air Force an update on the Air Force One project. And Ortberg does not want to disappoint the president.
But some of the milestones on the plane, it looks like, have slid. And so it raises the risk that the plane could show up really, really late during this administration or even after he leaves office. So this is kind of a tension point from Boeing early on. Just how do you manage this? Are there resources they could throw at this? And could Musk, in his new capacity, step in and maybe help?
This is The Big Take from Bloomberg News. I'm David Gura. This episode was produced by Julia Press. It was edited by our senior producer, Naomi Shavin, Aaron Edwards, and Benedict Camel. It was mixed and sound designed by Alex Segura, fact-checked by Jessica Beck and Adriana Tapia. Our senior editor is Elizabeth Ponso. Our executive producer is Nicole Beamsterboer. Sage Bauman is Bloomberg's head of podcasts. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe and review The Big Take wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps people find the show. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.